All right, rock and roll. This is the AWS RTP-AWS users group. It looks like just me and Okjay here. I gotta remind myself I gotta do the content reporting tool after this. Yada yada yada. Okay, so what we're gonna do today? All right, so I guess we're gonna start. I'm gonna close all this up. Got this. We did that. I think I lost one of my windows. All right. All right. Let's take a look at the website. All right. So last week we did the Habana stuff. Started that up, and then I actually, after the meeting and throughout the week, I worked with that some more. Thought I updated more image rotate with mxnet and intro to bazel. So we're going to talk about the AWS hosted hackathon for that icy bridge. I'm still working on it, and I made some progress. And we're going to talk about bazel. So let's do a make deploy, get update, and we'll let that run. So that's all done. So if we were to go to RTP AWS, everything is up. The short-term plan is there. The long-term plan in meetings, we got that. If we go over to the about, the source for the meeting, we just made that change 29 seconds. So all that's there. But that's not what's so important. What's important, let's move this out of the way. I'm still working on this. Make sure I got some changes there. All right, so that's just showing you that I've got cameras. Periodically, I will scan the cameras just to like update, give a period of update of all the webcams. Looks like they're updating, and I'll go ahead and push that. You notice I'm doing all this with Make. I guess maybe what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and show you a little bit of the bazel stuff, and we'll spend more time on this. If you don't know what bazel is, let's pull this over. So we'll go ahead. Let's go back to bazel for a second. So bazel's a build system. The first time I saw it, I think was with Android. Pretty sure that was probably the first time I saw it. There was Gradle and bazel, if I remember correctly, and I didn't really know much about it, but I've got some reasons why I'm interested in learning it. But it also kind of has a integration with a couple of other things I'm doing. I've got some stuff on Go, and Go has kind of like a build kind of setup, which bazel works with. Bazel builds a lot of things, or trying to build everything, in fact, with bazel. And even though, like in this project that I was just in, it has a make file that allowed me to, and I'm using make over here as well, right? But Bazel's a different approach to it, and it's a graph kind of language kind of thing. Like you literally like build flows, um, and so just look at this source directory here. Okjay was just talking to me about watching videos. I had literally just watched a video on uh, this week on Bazel. Watched a couple of videos, and one of them was a developer's talk from Bazel. And just read me. Do I have? Nope, not there. Maybe what the level here. So there's this video here, and this one's kind of interesting because it's a developers at scale, or maybe it's like dev tools at scale, and it's talking about tools you use when you're building lots of code, not small amounts of code. The guy made a comment about how make files themselves are kind of, here's a make file, for instance. This is 1970s technology. I'm a 1970s technology, I guess, but they work. And he basically had some code up. He didn't show the contents of the file. And he didn't show everything you needed to know to build with Bazel, but he showed like the the high level pieces. And it was a short talk. It was only like 30 some minutes, so it was pretty good. So with that said, I started doing it, and I had already looked at this website here, and so I can kind of put the two together. And basically, he showed how to do like this stage 2 bit. I just went ahead and put them all in. So my source directory is really stage 1, but whatever. So let's just kind of look at it. This make file is showing you I'm going to build the hello executable from the two source files that are .o files, the object files, and basically I'm linking them in, and I'm linking them in with standard C++ library. If you know anything about make files, this is saying this is a target, this is a dependency, this is a rule. And then it goes back and it's like, well, how do you know how to build a main.o? You build a main.o from a main.cc. And these are what's called explicit rules, meaning this is explicitly made with that. If you look up in the make file for that dev post, I talk about like implicit rules. I've done make a long time, yada yada yada, but I didn't know jack about Bazel, so I want to look at it. The next thing about Bazel, how I said that it ties in kind of with TensorFlow and mxnet. It's kind of like a graph programming language. You set up flows and you build them together, and you realize the flow of the graph. So let's just show a couple of things, because some of this I didn't actually do. It'll be interesting. So in here, this is the main directory. Go up a level. They would term this directory the workspace. I imagine there's probably something you can put in this workspace file. Right now, it's just a empty file saying that here is where I'm going to have my source, and here is where I'm going to have my various outputs. Okay. All right. So, like if I go down to main, go back down. If I did a make clean, there's nothing there, but I could do a make, and it would make those files, and it would put those files in that directory because that's all I've got it set up. I could run hello. And basically, if you look at the main.cc, it's simply saying run hello world and cat foo. Foo is coming from this header file. If you know anything about C, anything in angle brackets are like system libraries that you're including the header files. If you put them in quotes, it's supposed to be user header files. Just using namespace standard, so I don't have to say standard colon C out and standard colon indel. So this is just saying hello world, put a new line, put the contents of foo and put a new line. Show you util.star here, or util.h and util.cc. That's a function prototype. That's the function definition. Or you could say definition and declaration, whatever. And he's just returning 42. Everybody knows 42. Nothing new here. But let's do make clean. This is in the main directory. In the main directory, you put a build file for Gradle. I was wrong and mistaken about this. Let's go ahead and fix it up. See if we can get this working. I thought I had some of this working. Hold on a second. Let me do a git pull for a second. It's up to date. Okay. All right. So what we're going to say here is that this is way off. Okay. I like the headers. All right. So we're going to build hello, which is a binary. I almost wonder this is. I think this is going to fail, but we'll see. Okay, we'll see. We'll find out. I don't know. This is here, yada yada yada. Let's try to make it. Bazel. I gotta remember the. We'll try to do it from memory. Slash main colon hello. All right. Let's go up a level. Oh, I'm resisting going and looking at it because I'm trying to remember it. So basically, help, and we're trying to set a target to build. Bazel build. That's it. That's what I'm missing. Sounds about right. All right. No such target. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but not declared in package main. All right. So this is the package. This is the main directory. If you were to make a library, I know that you would put that library in that directory, but let's look at what he's doing. This is similar to this one, right? I don't have, I'm looking to see if I've got the directory around. I don't have it any place. So Bazel, GitHub. examples. These are like all of them. I'll make sure I'm on the right one. Don't see it there. Let's look over here for a second. So in the first one, they're only doing this. Let's see that we're going to come back to that. So he's got one C file, and then he's got two header files. So did I update that thing correctly? A library. We've got sources, we've got headers, we've got a dependency. This dependency goes back up to here. And here's, let's see, there's the command for building it. We were close. Go ahead and issue it so that we can come back up. The name is hello. So let's look at this again. So that looks kind of good. Syntax error. Okay, I see what the problem is. There's a comma missing. Try it again. All right, groovy. So we built that, and let's do verify. Let's get rid of all the bazel store. So they're all. I'm trying to get rid of them just to make sure that. Right. And let's see if we can find a dash A. I don't think there's going to be a dash A, but let's look. There's not. Let's find a dot O. Let's find hello, because we're naming it. Did the dude actually build this? He's saying he built it, but did he really build it? Bazel out. Okay, fast build. And there's hello. Yes. Yeah, so it runs. Why didn't we find that when we did this? That's kind of, this is symbolic link. Oh, it's a symbolic link. So it's kind of cool. It's all the way. I've got all this stuff all the way up in the top of my home directory. I didn't notice where I put it. Okay, but why he didn't find it? Because it's a symbolic link. There we found it. Let's look and see. There's a mechanism for saying how to follow symbolic links, but let's do it like this. Cache. Start there. Make sure. Okay, let's see if we can find a dot A. There is no dot A. Should be some dot O's, and there are. Okay, very good, groovy. All right, so that's that. That's that part. Whatever, you can build it. I could go down here and I could touch main hello main.cc. See what happens. Will it rebuild it? It should. He's saying he's up to date. Let's do this. Let's find hello. ls-l. So 1123. What happens if we touch this? Build it again. Didn't change. Oh, pardon me. Part of the problem is I'm looking at the objects. Do this again. There's a I got too many hello worlds. Okay, let's do this. Let's find the actual. That's this one. Let's see if we can run it. Yeah, so that's the binary. ls-l. It's still at 1123. So even though we're touching it, we're not actually causing it to recompile. So let's just VI it and make a change. If you were in make and you did a touch, it would literally force a recompile. So yo, let's build it again. Huh. So we literally, that should have forced a recompile, but he's not changing that. Right, well, let's do something that's more substantial than just saying yo. Let's put an actual yo in the text. I wonder if this is some sort of cache and that thing is not being updated there. Nope, 1129. He's definitely updated. And if we were to actually run it, you should see a yo now. Yeah. That's interesting. So I guess because the source had you touched it, but the touching it, if you did a rebuild, everything stays the same, so it doesn't actually have to do a build, right? You just change the date. The actual object file wouldn't change. That didn't have an effect. It wasn't until we actually put something that caused the object file to change that it built. So that's kind of clever of Bazel. One of the things I want to show is that I did not look. Let's look. There's a graph whiz thing here someplace. We'll pull it. We'll open this up in a new tab. I never actually looked at it. Generate graph. All right, groovy. Interesting. Sudo app. We'll do some linear algebra in a second. Nothing in there, but I know. Oh, it's graph viz. My bad. All right, groovy. And they're telling you on Ubuntu graph viz x dot. So right there at the bottom, I can see I've got x dot. So I can just install that. groovy. Let me. I might have to pull in GraphViz as well, but I imagine it got pulled in. I don't see it. But a couple roles. And let's try and see what they're going to do here. We'll find out if this works or not. Okay, so we did pick it up already. It's kind of groovy. What does this do? You can click on it. Click on that. That's just all it's doing is highlighting it. Home. Refresh. See all. I've never used this before, so this is kind of cool. So once again, he's just saying that this package is comprised of these two guys and that guy, the center. So he's a package is these two header files. That might come in handy. So all right, so enough about that. I don't have everything set up here. Git add. I don't have a new file, so it's git add. We get status. One thing I wanted to say about this is those things you're setting up a graph and then it comes through and that's the graph thing, yada yada yada. We'll talk some more graph in this next section, but if you notice, I don't know how to do a make clean, and when I was doing a make clean, I was just removing these things. Like I don't like if I don't think there is a clean command. There is. Removes output files and optionally stops the server. What does it do then? Let's see it. The reason I'm not that worried about that is there is in that talk. Okay, cool. So it did remove stuff. All right, well, I'll keep that in mind. In that talk, uh, the guy talked about that. Yeah, right here. Read that while I'm typing. Remove the output errors and symbolic links. Let's see if it removes the cache entries. And it will remove the cache entries. So way that I got around all of that stuff working is I put a get ignore, and that get ignore was for bazel. So this is a little curious because this says it's deleted like it was there. So let me look up for a second. I thought that was not going to be there. Um, added this. Okay. I was wondering if this was going to work, having the slash. Why? Visitors, get file system. Actually, get repo. All right, so let's see what happens now. Bazel bin out and source. Bazel bin out. All right, so nothing there. Let's try that bazel build. Hello again. Builds all that stuff. Bazel bin main. It's a little different, the output this time. Oh, okay. I was looking in bazel out. You can. It's also in bazel bin. There it is. Still has the yo. Let's see what the get status shows now. He's putting in bazel source. So let's go back. All right. That looks better. Maybe that's the wrong thing to do, but we'll find out. Get add. Yeah. Well, that's 20 minutes on that. I didn't want to spend that long. 40 minutes on that. I didn't want to spend that long. So let's just go ahead and switch off of this. It's a flow graph, yada, yada, yada. This is what I really want to talk about. All right. So let's get back over. All right. Where are we? So previously, I want to hit this real quick. Previously, I talked about this is kind of like this notebook is a typologue of the UC Berkeley class. It has on it where they do mxnet and oh no, I didn't really need to run all this one. With this one, kind of the I was doing it as a type along, right? But I also am using it just to learn this API. Part of my reason for doing this is I'm trying to learn the API, right? So the best way to do it is to do stuff. The second thing is as I went through their video once again. Okjay, you asked me, do I watch any videos? I watch a lot of videos. That I don't have the YouTube channel mentioned here, but I think in this directory, maybe in one of these readmes, there's some notes on it, and I think that's the Coursera class that I took. Yeah, and right here, this is so that's my repo of their work. This is the Berkeley. They don't have a repo. I just took their zip file of their stuff. Okay, this is my implementation of it. I'm using mxnet version 1.9. So the problem with Apache and mxnet is if you go to this website, it's kind of slow, right? So, like you can see, it's very slow. When it ever resolves, you'll see the next problem. I'm using version 1.9, but if you notice right here, I'm using the 1.8 because the docs are on 1.8 and they're not on 1.9, right? 1.9. Let's go to, there's that deep learning class that I was talking about. Let's go to tools and libraries, I think. Try this. I don't even know if this is. It's going to take so long to find it by looking. Hopefully, you can see that's a problem. If you do ever, when you get over here and you go to master, which is 1.9, and you go click on these links, there's no text. I don't know why. Don't know why, but that's the way it is. So I'm looking at the 1.8. Once again, it's slow. It's kind of hard to search through these things. But if I do the examples, I will have like I can literally I can make notes on it. So like on the negative indexing, I can put it in and I can say, oh, this is the example on indexing, and I can make comments about what it is, and I don't have to try to figure out what it is that they're doing. Expanding dimensions, I do that a lot. So there's in the 1.8 is where it's at. This is the prototype, and then here's an example. I got no problem with those and know how to do those. This one is not, that one's not that difficult to understand. Flatten's not that. But when I went and was like putting this stuff up, I swear to God, I don't understand what in the hell they're talking about. So let's look at this. This is choose element 0, this guy. So he's saying we're going to pick elements from an input array according to the input indices along a given axis. This was of interest to me because that's something I kind of want to do, right? There's their example. Like, first off, you can't type this in. Like if I literally were to pull these things in, I think it would fail because those are not Python syntax. I'm in the Python API. That's like a C++ comment. This is saying this function, he's going to give you this result. It's, so you can't even copy and paste it. I don't know why they chose to do the docs that way. But the next thing is, if you look at it, the parameters, this is saying your data, right? So that's your X. This is your index. So these are the variables saying those are what you're going to pull. These are your axes. So that's going to show you along which dimension you're going to use. Some mode. I hadn't even got to that, but let's look at this one as the example is, right? So he's saying here is X. This is what we're going to use. And we're going to pick the elements 0 and 1 along the first axis. The first axis is down. That's your rows, right? So on the row axis, go with 0 and 1. So if you ask me, that would be along this guy, 0 and 1, which would be this is 0 and this is 1 on axis 0. I would get the result 1, 2, and 3, 4, but I'm getting 1, 4. That's the output. Now, maybe what they're saying is because this is the 0th element, right? That he's saying 4 rows 0 and 1, column 0. So that would be 1, 3, but I'm getting 1, 4. So I don't I literally I don't understand what he's talking about. So all right, so anyway, just trying to put stuff in to get it to work. I still couldn't get it. If you don't specify an axis, the output comes out to be the same as if I do this, that axis is the same as this, or the output is the same. Um, so here I've built an array of a 3 by 3, which is this guy. Here I'm specifying these indexes. You can see them. And so let's just look at the first one. He's picking 2, 5, and 8. So that's this guy and this guy. If I say axis equals 0, now he's picking 6, 7, 8, which is those guys. And then if you go back and you put axis equals 1, he's coming back with 2, 5, and 8. So I'm like, so I'm still a little confused about it, to be honest with you. Okay. Well, in our 12 minutes. So there's that. So if you want to help me and learn how to do mxnet, you can start here, which is really just a rewrite of this. 7. I think 7 was the last one I worked on. So I'm still trying to rotate the matrices. I built up, and I knew this was going to happen. I knew that like 45 is going to be wrong. So I was trying to do, and I showed that in that preview video. I knew that when I rotated, so I got this working with square images, like little pseudo 2 by 2, 3 by 3 images. But when I went to horizontal vertical images where they differed, so like maybe you had more columns than you had rows, it was going to be problematic, and it was. And the reason is because you don't have the when you let's look at it this way. Here's an image that's got more rows than it has columns. When you rotate it, you're going to have it turned on its side, right? And then the indices in the source are going to be for a column 2. There is no column 2 here, right? There's a column 0, 1, but no 2. That's our 10-minute warning. Yep, 10-minute warning. So what you could do if it's just a 2 by 3 or a 4 by 5 or 0, 1, whatever, and you've got one row off, you could just mirror them. But if it's like maybe a 2 by 6 where you've got 4, I don't really think you can do that. But you've got to know that once you count past your max row, you come back over. And I was trying to come up with a way to add those. And as I was doing it, I was also thinking, well, that's great. If I do figure it out in this copy here, I don't know. So once again, there was a lot more code here with some prints and stuff. I was saying that in this assignment, right? Because this is literally, this is how you're getting your output image from your input image based upon these new indexes, which I'm showing right here, these guys. As you're in the saying, like for all rows, column 0, the new columns are all the rows for column 1, right? You would just have to filter this out, and you could filter that out by saying any rows which are greater than 2, and then those elements would have to be adjusted, right? But when you copy those things back in, I don't know if it will line up. I doubt it would. I think what would happen is if you took off the first two, let's say, instead of saying all rows, let's say that you took out the first 2 rows. Well, the copy would assign to row 0 the first thing that was there, and you would have to put them back in. I think I could literally just rewrite that stuff. Maybe I could do that um, in this row columns thing here, but I don't want to do that. The other thing is I was trying. People said like, oh, you need to go look at this example. Well, if let me pull up an example of where some guy talked to me about this. mxnet GitHub discussion. So this is where I put my original question. And this guy's like, hi, these should prove useful in your implementation. And he's like showing me stuff. He's showing me like how to do transforms. Okay, that's grand. That's not my problem. Okay. And then he's showing me how to do a rotate, right? He's got if statements in here. I don't want if statements. If you look at the net, like when he goes further on, and he's like creating classes and making floats and making pairs and pulling up a string buffer and yada 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 yada. No, I don't need to do that. That's not my problem. My problem is I have the rows and indexes. I need to put them in mxnet. He's like doing strings and stuff. This is not the problem. Yeah. It's kind of groovy. He's showing me all this stuff, but whatever. A lot of stuff. And he's talking about parallel programming. Yeah, that's groovy, groovy. My problem is I'm in the API. Finally, it pulled up. By the way, now that it's pulled up, I'll show you my next problem. So, where do they actually have language bindings? Get started. We'll go ahead and hit that, and it'll come up eventually. The problem is I didn't want to do anything with ifs, because if you do things with ifs, you're breaking this flow, right? I was worried about even doing things like this add. Like, I don't know if that will literally work without breaking the graph. I don't know. But up until this point, I've avoided it. So, what I was saying is the Gordian knot is a problem, right? Let's just cut it and make it simpler. And in that case, let's make it square, right? If you make it a square image, it's not that big a deal. However, I had to throw in an if statement, which kind of sucks. But I think maybe I could work around that. You make it even worse is when I concat, I can only concat um, 1 row at a time. It looks like you can't concat 2 rows. I don't know. I didn't really. So at that point in time, once again, I punted it and just did it because I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get on to the next problem, which there's 2 problems that are coming up, and I'll explain them. I did throw in a while, even though I said I didn't want to, but there is, as I was looking around in the contrib API from mxnet, there is a while loop, which may like make a graph within, so it's not as bad. So there's that. I tested that code, and it says I thought I made changed all this stuff to square. So originally I had rectangular on my mind, so I ordered make rectangular, but it is make square. So here is a 3x2. It comes out after you call the make square. It's a 3x3. Just do the reverse, a 2x3. There's 2x3. It's a 3x3. Here's a 2x6. It's now a 6x6. Groovy. Rotating a 2x3x90, which was failing. Rotating. Now just go back, make sure the rotate 3x3 works. All that works. And then so I showed the deer, showed the augmentation to make it grayscale. We're running out of time. I won't talk a lot about it. Here's all the extra zeros, rotate by 90. And see, now you've got this black bar, but the image is 600 by 600. So I got like two things I can do, right? I got a problem that rotate by 45 is going to break. Now I threw in the true statement, and sure enough, he does break. And if I could put my hands on in the camera, maybe you can see on the, you can see here, you got a square image, right? And you rotate it by 45. Now you've got that triangle, which I think is like root 2/2 high. So he extends out of the bounds. My hands like this. Here's the corner. He extends out of the bounds of that array. So you've got that problem. But what you can also do in that regard is you can just make your image bigger that you're going to put it into, right? So if it's a 600 by 600, it would go up root 2/2, or it's like 1.5 bigger, right? So it would be 6.5. It'd be 900 by 900. And that should fit it all in there. So with that said, I was like trying to make it square so that I could start trying to figure out. So I got that problem. The second problem is I got to pull that black out, and I was like trying to look at how to do that, because basically what I will do is say for every, I'm going to say like I want to find out what rows, what 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 columns have all of the rows, if you were to sum the values up, are still zero. So like if you were over here and you pick the first value, it's gray, right? So it's going to be like 20 or 160, and it's going to have some value, right? I guess if
we have to the meeting is ending.
yeah, I know that. Like I've got
So
one.
it's better to go further next week.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. I'm just going to like sum that up. Where there's zero, it's in filter them out. The other problem is I'll make it bigger, and I'm still working on this. Love to have somebody working with me on it. Okay, that's it. That was a good week. Made a little bit of progress. Anything you want to say in closing?
Yes, I see you next week. Okay.
International Women's Day. Take a look at that thing.
Yes,
Look at the
I see.
doc.
I
It's
see you
similar to
next week.
this. The TensorFlow is similar to the mxnet, but it's simpler what we're doing there. Okay.